And now what we're going to do, how many of you are familiar with Ephesians 5:25 through 27? You'll see it on your notes, where it says, "Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church, gave himself for it, that he might sanctify it and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having a spot or a wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish." Okay, everyone's familiar with that verse. Okay, what is a spot? What is a wrinkle? What is a blemish? If we know that we're supposed to be a set apart, which is what sanctified means, what holy means, to be set apart, and we're not supposed to have any spots, wrinkles, or blemish, that's the goal. Well, how can we, as a future bride, let's say, get ourselves rid of our spots, wrinkles, and blemishes when they don't know what they are? Does that make sense? Do you know, in the Torah, it mentions 12 specific blemishes that the priest couldn't have, otherwise he couldn't minister. So why not go to Torah to find out what the 12 blemishes are? There are 3 specific spots that are mentioned. See, your answers, the New Testament wants to take you back to the Torah so you can find the answers. So that's what we're going to look at today. What does it mean to have a spot, a wrinkle, or a blemish, and how in the world do you get rid of them? Because that's what the Lord wants to do. He wants to sanctify us and cleanse us. So when the Bible talks about spots, wrinkles, and blemishes, do you think it is talking about how we need to get rid of our literal wrinkles or spot remover, with some kaboom spot remover or something like that, or wrinkle remover? No, it's not talking about physical spots, wrinkles, and blemishes, or we're all in trouble. Okay, so we're going to look at what it may mean. Well, one thing we do know from Exodus chapter 19, verse 6, God had said to Israel, he wants them to be a kingdom of priests. They were to be a holy nation. These are the words which you shall speak to the children of Israel. Well, I want you to relate. They were to be holy. And Ephesians 5 says the body of Messiah is to be what? Holy. Okay, so we're going to go through the Torah and find out, as a priest, what spots, blemishes, wrinkles they shouldn't have, so then we know what the parallel is. In Leviticus 22, verse 21, here's what it says. "Whoever offers a sacrifice of peace offerings to the Lord to accomplish his vow, or a freewill offering in beeves or sheep, it shall be perfect to be accepted. There shall be no blemish therein." Right? So here it's talking about the sacrifice. The animal that they offered, if you remember in Malachi, God was all upset because they were offering the blind, the lame, the scraps. And you remember that verse, and he says, would you offer this to your governor or to your king? Are he going to receive it? And so we see the sacrifice itself also had to be without spot, wrinkle, or blemish, right? And a lot of the reason why that is because they represent Messiah, and he was without spot, wrinkle, or blemish. Here we see in Malachi 1:8, "Are you going to offer the blind for sacrifice? Is that not evil? And if you offer the lame and the sick, is that not evil? Offer it now to your governor. Will he be pleased with you or accept your person, says the Lord of hosts?" In other words, I don't think so. Now look at Romans 12:1. He says, "I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice." That is what? Holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. So that means we are the sacrificial offering that are laying on the altar. We're laying our lives on the altar to God. But this says we're supposed to be set apart, and it has to be acceptable to God. Now, I was talking to someone just a little bit earlier before the service. Most Christians don't understand the entire sacrificial offering. They're only saying what they've been taught, and they've been taught wrong. Do you know there was no sacrifice for intentional sin? There wasn't any. Most of these sacrifices were just thanksgiving offerings or peace offerings or what's called the olah offering, which is the burnt offering, where the entire sacrifice was completely consumed. Can you imagine, I don't know how much a bull costs today, but let's say you have an adult bull. That's going to be probably a couple $1,000s or something like that. Well, the peace offering was shared. The peace offering was an offering that the person who offered it got a part of the peace offering. The priest got a part of it, and the Lord got part of it. But the Olah offering, nobody got any of it but God. The priest didn't get any of it. The person who offered didn't get any of it. It all went to God. So when they're offering a bull as a burnt offering, it's just like someone felt, Lord, I want to do something for you. It's called, in Hebrew, it's called korban, to draw close. It's a gift. And so here you have someone says, I want to draw close to you, God. I want to draw near. And so they would offer a bull. But that's like you taking a $1,000 bill and lighting it on fire and letting it go up to God. Look at the concept of what they were doing. They were literally spending hard-earned money, and they were just offering the whole thing up to God. Okay, well, Romans 12:1 is the Olah offering. It's not necessarily the peace offering. Okay, there were several offerings. It's not the Asham or the guilt offering. This is the Olah offering. In other words, what he is saying to us, we are to present our entire bodies, the whole enchilada, so to speak, okay? Too often, we only want to give God part of our lives. That's not acceptable. He wants the entire, he wants every bit of us, okay? And so when we present ourselves, I mean, God is the one who makes us holy. We don't make us holy. It's something else I want you to realize. We don't, which is another important point I'll go ahead and bring out here, taking some side notes. But let me mention something to you. If, let's say you have your grandma's dishes that are antiques, okay? Do you use them every day or do you set them apart? So those dishes are holy. All holiness means, it's important to realize this, holy does not mean righteous. Holy does not mean righteous. Prostitutes were called holy. They were set apart for a work. Okay, all holy means is set apart. It doesn't mean righteous whatsoever. Okay, so here, when you take grandma's dishes and set them apart, they're holy, right? But are they holy to you or holy to me? They're holy to you. Nothing personal, but I don't care about your grandma's dishes. Okay? So when you set something apart, it's holy to you. Now, when God sets something apart, it's holy to him. Okay? And then he asks us, like when he sets us apart, he's saying, now we're holy, but see, he is the only one that can make us holy. If we set ourselves apart, well, that's great for you, but it doesn't do nothing for God. So all too often, mankind tries to make themselves holy, and it doesn't work that way. Only God can set you apart. Okay? And then, well, then that's another point. Now comes sanctification, let me explain it to you this way. Let's look at this. When God makes the Sabbath holy, he what? He set it apart, so it's holy to God. Now, man can set a day apart, but it's holy to him. Okay? And so we just something to be thinking about. But let's look at this. These are the 12 different blemishes, and they all come from Leviticus 21, verse 16 through 22. And look at what it says here on your notes. It says that the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron, saying, whoever he be of your seed in their generations that has any blemish, let him not approach to offer the bread of his God. Now, we just saw that the sacrifice itself couldn't have any blemishes. Now we're going to see the priest who offered it also couldn't have a blemish. And so let's look at what they are. It says, whatsoever man he be that has a blemish, he shall not approach. And you're going to notice it's almost identical to the animals. Okay? The priest, if he was blind, he couldn't offer. If he was lame, if he had a flat nose, if he had anything superfluous, or a man that is broken-footed or broken-handed, or a hunched back, or a dwarf, or that has a blemish in his eye, or have scurvy, or is scabbed, or has his stones broken, no man that has a blemish of the seed of Aaron the priest shall come nigh to offer the offerings of the Lord made by fire. He has a blemish. But here's the good news. It says, but he shall not come nigh to offer the bread of his God, but he shall eat the bread of his God. So he's not cut out of fellowship. He can have fellowship with God. You following me? He just can't do the work of the priesthood. But he still can eat the bread and everything. And if I want you to notice, some of this is a good thing. How many of you, when you're injured, want to continue working? If you've got a bad back, do you want to have your boss force you to work or let you have a layoff or something? If you're blind, how would you like to be a blind priest working around fire? How would you like to have a broken hand and have to pick up the sheep? So in one sense, I want you to see this is a good thing. God is not being hard. He's being graceful. Because if you got a broken foot, how would you like to be the one to have to walk? But there's a balance in all of this. See, God is amazing. He still doesn't want you to have these blemishes. He wants you to get healed. You following me? So I don't want you to see this as a judgmental thing. I want you to see God is merciful, but he wants to have his church, his body, be without blemish. So he's saying, get healed, guys. And until you get healed, I'm not going to allow you to do the work. How often do you find some people, they want to be involved in the ministry, but they got some problems, and you got to set them aside until they get healed before they can come back and do the ministry? Well, that's what this is all about. So don't see this as a judgmental, condemning thing. It's a matter of God saying, look, you've got a blemish. Let's get this thing healed, and then you can come back again. You following me? So that's how I want you to receive this teaching, and we're going to look at these things. Now, what's amazing to me is how many blemishes there are within the body of Messiah. Okay, first off, how many of you, talk about, hey, we're priests? Okay, well, if you think you're a priest, or if you're part of the church, guess what? You better work on these blemishes. You better get these things resolved if you want to do that. Do you want to sit on the sidelines and watch, or do you want to be involved in the work? Well, let's look at blind. Let's look at this first blemish. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 3 through 4, it says, if our gospel is hid, it is hid to them that are lost, in whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which don't believe, lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine to them. In Matthew 23:24, it talks about you blind guides which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. So here we see that our minds can be blinded, can't they? But now let's look at this. Here he's speaking to a church with blind eyes. In Revelation 3, we see there's a blindness in the church. He's speaking to the Laodicean church here, and it says, because you say, I am rich and increased with goods and have need